Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
I was like going to Toys R Us and finding like talking Captain Phasma toys to try to get a little more sample of what Gwendolyn Christie sounded like.
Hello there. This is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid.
And this is Elora. I'm a prequel trilogy kid. And you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars to take the hate out of the debate and look at the franchise from a certain point of view, which is one fan at a time.
Yes, and today's fan is a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to him. We have Marc Thompson, and he is a voice actor who's been in the business since the 90s when he voiced characters for shows like MTV's Daria. He did a lot of the male voices on there. He's voiced fan-favorite characters in shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where he played Casey.
Yes.
Astonishing X-Men, as well as the voice of T-Pig. And I may get some of these pronunciations wrong because I don't know my Pokemon like I should probably.
I don't know Pokemon at all, so you could fool me.
Yes. T-Pig, Primeape, Gliscor, and Gengar. And that's just a few of the many, many animated shows he's been a VO artist in, or an actor in.
But he's also a big fan of the Galaxy Far, Far Away.
Yes, he is. We were introduced to him when we talked to Chelsea Zukowski from Space Wizards Book Club. She was like, have you ever listened to Marc Thompson on the audiobooks? And we were like, no. And she was like, well, why don't you? And we were like, okay. And she was like, well, good, go do that. And we were like, well, we are, but we have to finish this interview. I don't know where I'm going with this, but...
Well, it was funny because I don't think I realized that I had listened to a Marc Thompson audiobook until after that interview. And then I went and specifically sought out books that he had narrated. And then I realized that, like, he had done Living Force.
Oh, the John Jackson Miller.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, I do know Mark. Like, where was my head? And I think that a lot of people would kind of have a similar response. Anyone that's listened to an audiobook, statistically, your chances were very high that you listened to one that Mark narrated.
Yes, he's narrated so many because he's narrated like over 40 books. He did Rise of Skywalker. Mm-hmm. He did the 25th anniversary of Heir to the Empire, Star Wars Trials of the Jedi from the High Republic. I think he did Dark Disciple. So he's done all these giant fan favorite books, and his ability to like convey the character and make it feel like you're seeing the character is amazing. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I'm really excited to talk to him about.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for this interview. Chelsea's definitely the one that turned us on to audiobooks in general.
Yes.
Huge thank you to Chelsea. She gets a lot of like props on our show for turning us on to like some pretty cool shit. But yeah, so I guess let's go over and chat with Mark.
Let's go talk to the zip zap zoop zap. Let's go talk to Mark.
Zoom zoom zoom.
So we're doing a new kind of opening where we kind of like we talk about the guest in a segment beforehand, and then we just kind of come to the interview. And so that's I feel like it's an awkward moment, like to get into the interview, and I'm always like, okay, how do we start this? But it's really awesome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Oh yeah.
Tell us, Mark, are you ready to share with the world what does Star Wars mean to you?
I am.
Yay.
Yay. Yes.
I'll kick us off with 5 with the Force if you want, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So this is kind of like our more rapid fire round. Get your Star Wars baseline. What Star Wars movie is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, guilty pleasure. People usually ask your favorites. So now I'm like, all right, guilty pleasure. Okay, it's Attack of the Clones.
Yes.
Because, like
Mine too.
do you want me? Are these just rapid fire? Or do you want?
You could.
Yeah,
totally
you can expound.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I saw Attack of the Clones opening night at the Ziegfeld Theater, which seats like 1,000 people in New York City. We camped out on the sidewalk beforehand, and so I was, giddy with excitement. And, obviously, like, looking back on it, maybe some of the dialogue is cringe and, like Anakin and Padme's love story is very, clunky or whatever. But seeing Yoda fight Count Dooku and just like, a lightsaber comes out and bounce out, it was like being in a football stadium. Like the whole theater's like my favorite Star Wars memories ever, because it was just like people were freaking out and I was like giggling and shouting, and like it was just such a cool moment to witness in a crowd. And even with all its flaws, I will always forever love that movie because of that moment.
Absolutely. That sounds like quite a formative experience. That's so cool.
Yes. Yes.
Dave, do you want to roll D6?
I got a 1.
Ooh, okay. Who's your favorite major character?
Yoda.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Stay in the theme here. Yeah, it's just everything. I loved his whole, introduction and how appearances are deceiving, and not judge a book by its cover, and just all of the exposition about what the Force is, and just the fact that he just looks cool and he's like this cool puppet. Yeah. Funny and serious. I have a Yoda tattoo.
Oh my gosh.
That's
awesome.
So
that's rad.
He's my favorite by far.
We love Yoda. Do you have a favorite line to quote?
Do or do not? There is no.
I'm sensing a lot of Yoda energy. I'm loving it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so besides the films, what is your favorite Star Wars content?
Okay. Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, yes.
No, yeah, it is. It's Star Wars Rebels. Maybe like it's a tie between like Mando and Ahsoka. Maybe it's a 3-way tie between those three, but like I'll go with Rebels. That was my instinct. But like, yeah, just like getting to know that core group of characters and that kind of family was really powerful. And I can't watch is it Jedi Knight, like the Kanan's episode, without just every single time I watch it, I don't get numb to it. It's like that.
Yeah.
On like I just weep every time because it's just so powerful.
I remember at the time, so unexpected.
Yeah. It's like this cute little Disney kid show.
Yes.
No, they knocked out of the park with that one.
I kind of always really loved how they started out kind of like young and spunky, and it slowly got more and more war-torn as the series went on. And it was just, it's an incredible series. It's my favorite too, so.
Is it really your favorite is also?
Yeah.
I don't feel so weird.
No.
Kanan and Ezra's relationship, there's a lot that comes out about the Force in there, and I love that. And and I think part of the reason that Ahsoka is up there for me is because of the connections to Rebel.
Yes.
Ahsoka so much because of all of the foundation that was laid in Rebel.
Yeah.
I really thought of Ahsoka as Rebel Season 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last of the 5 with the Force. Who's your favorite character to voice?
Oh, man. Yoda again?
Yeah.
I like doing Vader. I think it's kind of him, and I get a little enhancement because they kind of put the filter on there and stuff like that. But you don't know the power of the dark side. So
good. So good.
So that's our 5 with the Force. And what was your first introduction to Star Wars? And can you take us through that?
It's one of those things where I was born in 1975, so I can't really remember a moment in my life where it wasn't there. Like I think I guess probably it was action figures was maybe my first introduction, but I feel like the VHS tapes were always in the background, or the marathons on TBS or whatever, or Spike TV, or like I just,
yes.
I always remember that. And I think my first theatrical memory was I did see Empire in the theater. And I just remember like Luke crashing on Dagobah out on the nose of the X-Wing, like R2, where are you? I like screamed out in the theater, he's in the water, But so like that's like a core memory, but it's just always kind of been there, so.
Yeah.
And I find it so interesting that kind of the scene that you first remember is crashing into Dagobah and that pairing up with your love of Yoda.
I hadn't thought about that before, but you're probably right.
Yeah. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you collect, you had some of the figures. How did you interact with Star Wars on a day-to-day basis when you were a kid and were really into it?
It was definitely, I remember like playing with the action figures at my grandma's house. I remember watching the VHSs like a lot. I remember some early video games. Was there an Atari 2600?
Yes. It was kind of a bad Hoth. It was like side scroll, and you were like almost, I can't think of anything. It was almost like Joust against AT-ATs in a way.
Yeah. So I played that. There was like an arcade that would have like the kind of polygon
yes.
like ships or whatever. And then I suppose, I can't remember when the Battle Pod came out. That might have been college for me or late high school. I was obsessed with that one for a while because it was like a makeup of a cockpit and you were in there.
Yes.
So I really, really liked that one. So it was a lot of, that type of thing. I do remember, I don't know if this is jumping ahead, but I'm not, this is weird because I know a lot of people know me as a audiobook narrator, but growing up, I was not a reader. Like I was not somebody that read for fun. Only time I went out and bought a book was when Heir to the Empire came out. And because I was what happens after Return of the Jedi. And, I bought the book. I was all excited about it. But then my teenage laziness got the better of me and I never finished it because I was just, I don't know what I was thinking because I'd never really read a book. I didn't have to. Kind of just skimmed or got the cliff notes or whatever. But I think because it was Star Wars was on the cover, I was like, I can do this. And I was like, no, I can't. But then it was crazy that, later on I got hired to narrate Heir to the Empire and I got to find it.
You got the completion of the story.
So yeah, but it was mostly action figures, video games, and rewatching the VHS, just rewatching.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I find that really funny about Heir to the Empire. When you finally did voice it, were you just really excited? Like, if you can, take us through how you got that gig and actually doing it.
Yeah. So it's a bit of it like, so originally what happened was I had been acting for a while at that point and doing a lot of like animation, voiceover. And my agent called and said, have you ever done an audiobook? And again, I'm not a reader. And I was like, no. And she was like, well, it was a Star Wars audiobook. So I thought you'd be interested. I was like, what? Hey. And so that was actually the Legacy of the Force series. And I auditioned for that. I went to a studio and read in front of Kevin Thompson, no relation, but we had the same last name. And I think I probably got the part because I could, it had like Han and Luke and Leia and Admiral Akbar in the audition. So like I really, studied that and just brushed up on all that stuff. And I think I could do some approximations of those characters where they were like, okay, let's give this guy a chance. But I had never read an audiobook before. So he really had to kind of hold my hand and like, the art of making the story make sense and all that stuff. So I got to do like right out of the gate, never done an audiobook before. I got to do 9 of those books. And so a bit of a learning curve. And, like I feel like I maybe got, improved over the years, but then eventually those went well enough that they were going to do a 25th anniversary of Heir to the Empire. And they were like, we'd like for you to do this. So then I got to do that. And that was like a kind of that circle. It was pretty crazy.
Wow.
That's amazing. And what a great way to get through the book.
I'm curious, before we dive more into audiobooks and your journey into, your craft and your career now, I'm curious, what was it, do you think, about Star Wars that young you just it gripped you so much? What was it? Was it the story? Was it the characters? With special effects? What really resonated?
I mean, if you asked the, little kid version of me what it was, I probably would have said like lightsabers and certainly the characters and just the story was so compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on it in hindsight, I think, just like Lucas has stated several times that his intention was to make a modern day mythology. And I think that there were, in order to teach kids, good and evil and right and wrong. And I think I was definitely, looking back on it, I feel like those were some seeds that got rooted in me. And, that was, really formative in terms of, morality and in terms of wanting to do the right thing. I think all that stuff it is that, hero's journey that, like everyone talks about, but the Hero with 1,000 Faces is just like there was something so primal and just essential to that story and how he was telling it that I think resonated with me and with, millions of other people.
Yes.
Yeah, but lightsabers are undeniably cool, and that was probably and I love Muppets and seeing Yoda and just, and not to go on too far of a tangent, but
no, I love it.
Hamill completely makes you believe that puppet is real because of his interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So as a kid, you totally buy that this creature is a real living being, and that was fascinating and just amazing. And so it was really, really cool.
I feel like the mythology kind of grips you, but the lightsabers keep you there.
Yeah.
What I find really amazing about the original trilogy, and I think part of why they have stayed for so long, even if you watch the non re-release versions, the non-special versions, those effects hold up against any other effect of that time, even throughout the 80s, I would even say, in such an amazing way. It's hard to express how never seen before those effects felt when you first saw them in the theaters.
Yeah.
And kind of speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, because you said you remember seeing Empire in the theater, but you watched them on videotape over and over again, which was kind of my same experience, watching them on videotape over and over again. But then they finally re-released them in theaters in '97. What was your reaction? Did you react because it's the first time you've seen them letterboxed and on a big screen in 12 years? What was your fandom celebration like seeing it in the theaters then?
That was probably part of the reason that I'm regressing back to Star Wars fan, going from Star Trek to Star Wars. Is all through high school, I was diehard Star Trek. Still love Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, in the 90s, I was either in college or I was in college. And that was my first time getting to go, we same thing. We lined up, we camped out or whatever. It was before you could get assigned seatings on Fandango or anything like that.
Right.
Hours before. And just to be in that crowd. And as soon as the everyone was just cheering, and it just reminded me of how much I loved that growing up. And I was in, I wanted to make sure that I was there for Empire, there for Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they were doing, as much as maybe people wish we had the despecialized version, the fact that you were seeing never before scenes before with Han and Jabba the Hutt, in the docking bay, or the big creature walking by as the land speeder goes by, that was unbelievable. And that was seeing Jurassic Park for the first time in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
How are they doing this? What, at the moment, I was, just totally, I was loving all the added stuff. I was like, this is amazing, part of me that now I would like a version that, could see what it was when it first came out. But I ate all that stuff up. I was really, really into it. Really cool.
And it is such a different way from the videotape of experiencing the movies.
Oh, yeah.
Let's dive into kind of your work now as a narrator. I'm going to say spoiler alert for any books. I don't know if there will be spoilers, but I'm just saying spoiler alert. so I feel better when I'm editing this. You talked a little bit about it, but can you take us through the process of narrating an audiobook? How long does it take? What kind of choices do you have to make? And how do you prepare for it?
Yeah. So it definitely takes a long time. Like, I don't know how much of it is just because I'm a slow reader and didn't, read enough growing up, but it'll take me several weeks to kind of read the book through the first time because I'm reading it, but I'm also like stopping every time there's a line of dialogue and making notes about, okay, who is this? Are they human? Are they alien? Are they male? Are they female? Are they non-binary? Or like what's going on there? And then is there any character traits that I should latch on to? Are they timid? Are they braggadocious? Like what's going on with them? And then I'm writing all those notes down. And then I go back and I have to like cast it, meaning like kind of just think about like, what type of voice would I use? Sometimes I even think like if this were a film, like what actors might be playing these roles.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I try to kind of come up with the voices for everything. And then I record like little samples on my phone. And then we go into the booth and then we're recording in the booth from like, 10 in the morning till like 5 or 6 at night. And
wow.
They let you out for water and bathroom and food.
They lock you in there with one bottle and they're like, it's for both.
There's like a single granola bar on the table. Yeah.
Sometimes I have to eat because my stomach growls so much. Like they picks up.
Oh, that's funny. That's incredible. Like my background is as a theater kid. So I totally hear what you're saying about kind of like beating out the script and but to have to do that for every single character, for every single moment, for every single beat, that's just like the unseen work that goes into, I don't know, it's remarkable. I don't really know where I was going with that. There's so much work. And I think what I'm curious is like, how did you, not to like get away from the process of making, but like, how did you find yourself in this world? Like, was this something you knew you always wanted to do? Do you have a background in theater?
Yeah. Very early on, I kind of found acting and like, I am not very athletic. And I think my mom noticed early on that, this was something I like to do and I like to perform. So she was amazing and like went out of her way to find acting classes for like kids my age and then I had like in junior high and in high school, I had amazing drama teachers that also like really nurtured it. And like, we had like really great choir and theater programs. And when we would do shows, like they would rent the sets and costumes from like Broadway houses in New York. And
rad.
So it was like really well done. And Mr. Putnam and Miss Ham and Miss Hofstetter and Mr. Frost and Miss Aarons like were really just totally like, encouraging me and giving me opportunities to do plays and musicals. And I'll be eternally grateful to them for that because, and Miss Hofstetter especially kind of, said you could maybe give this a go. Like you should really try it, And so I went to college to study theater and I have 2 sons now that are adults and I understand where my dad was coming from, but my dad was trying to be practical. My dad was hey, let's get a sales degree and then you can audition on the side, And I was like, no,
right.
take my dream away, So like, so I was kind of resistant to it, but he was just trying to make sure that there's a lot of rejection and he was trying to make sure that so, but my mom, at one point got laid off from her job because it was one of these situations where she had just gotten promoted. And then because she was the person with the least experience in her department, they let her go. And it was a business, like Kodak, and it was like supposedly a stable job. And she had to like start over at like, 40 something. So she kind of looked at me and was like, there are no guarantees. There is no such thing as a safe job. So you might as well do what you're really passionate about. So she really championed me and like kind of told me to convince my dad that this is what I really wanted to do. So I did. And then I got to go to college for acting and went to New York and then started getting voiceover work around my sophomore year and then just kind of kept going.
Yeah.
So.
Are voices something you've always did since you were a kid? Like when you were a kid, were you doing like Luke Skywalker and Yoda and Darth Vader?
Kind of, yeah. Like it was, my mom likes to tell the story that like when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, they gave out like superlative awards at the end of the year. And I got like the motor mouth award because like I was making noises and doing voices during the time we're supposed to be doing our classwork. And the teacher was like, Mark, quiet. I was like, sorry. So,
I just want to narrate my life.
I would just like mimic things I would hear on TV and do little voices.
Oh, wow. I love that. And go mom. Yeah. Sorry, not to like backtrack too much, but yeah.
No, absolutely go mom. That's an amazing. I mean, it must be so great to have a parent like go through something terrible and look at you and go, you know what? I've learned from this and I'm going to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Like I don't know if I would have done this without her support and her encouragement because I would, it's just a scary thing to try to do something like that. Yeah. there is a lot of rejection and there's not a lot of opportunity. I came from like a very small town where there was a farmer that was behind me. And, when I took my wife home to meet my parents, she was like, where are we? Like, middle of nowhere, so the idea of like coming from a place like that and then trying to like, I'm going to go to New York. It was like naive. So I definitely needed her support. Really
That's amazing. With your voices and listening to the narrations, your narration goes beyond narration and has become a performance. It's a cast of characters. They all feel lived in and brought to life. Mm. What is the process for that? Like do you work with a director? And I know you spoke a little bit about beating it out, but then when you're doing it, what's it like working in the space when you're reading it?
Mm-hmm. It's really cool. So it's challenging for sure. I've been doing it since 2006. So it's been a while now where I've kind of evolved. My process has evolved, and I feel like I've gotten a little bit more into a rhythm and kind of figured out how to do some things that at first were super intimidating and hard. And because I used to hate having a line of dialogue and it's like this really passionate moment and don't you see? And like he said, that would always like throw me off or or like if I had to describe, the scenery, I was kind of like, yada, 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 yada. Okay, here's my next line. And, and Kevin was like, no, like you've got to, the dialogue is interesting, but you're making the prose and the narrative, very boring. And you've got to make it as engaging as you are the dialogue. And he said this great thing about, there's a reason the description of the room is in there. There's a reason the description of, that means something to that character. So like figure out what that means to them and bring in their point of view when you're narrating that. Allow their point of view to be the emotional undercurrent of whatever those kind of words are. And so he's he's like won all kinds of awards and he's a really great director. And so at first it was a lot more hands-on and him kind of having to do all that stuff. And now I kind of have learned a little bit more of kind of what he likes and what his style is. It's not as hands-on now, but he'll still interject and kind of remind me about what the stakes are in this particular scene or remind me of, we've got to, kind of foreshadow this because this is what's coming in the next, at the end. So we've got to make sure we're hitting that a little harder to make sure that it's really foreshadowed or sometimes one of his illustrations he'll talk about with my character voices is sometimes, I tried to sneak in like a Dolly Parton voice one time. We're not doing that. So sometimes not Dolly Parton. That was Carol Channing. Sorry.
Yeah.
He uses the illustration of like a symphony or an orchestra and how there's all those different instruments in the orchestra or the or the band or whatever, but you've got to kind of know when to play those notes and what instruments will sound good against each other. So if there's two characters, they're going to have a scene together. We have to he'll sometimes help me strategize, let's make sure that this is with this one because they'll play off of each other well in that scene.
Right.
So it was very, very collaborative.
I'm wondering how you approach performing, obviously well-known characters, but so cemented with well-known actors. Uh-huh. And if you have anyone that you find particularly challenging or how you might approach that.
Yeah, there is definitely a self-imposed pressure that I feel because I know a lot of those characters so well from the film. So I feel like I've got to get close to what they were in the film, because otherwise, in my mind, it would be distracting if it's totally, different than how it's done there, So I feel like, and this is kind of a general response, but like, I feel like during like some of the newer characters, it was a little harder just because I feel like the older films, I felt like there were some archetypes and they were really,
right.
Clear. Like, this is the young farm boy and this is the rogue scoundrel, and and I feel like some of those archetypes weren't as like firm, and some of the new ones, so it was harder for me to find the voices and just so that could be challenging. But so there's several that can be hard, and I remember like I kind of had to like let go of some of that perfection. Like, some of that perfectionism might be helpful, but then sometimes it gets in the way, and so I had to kind of learn to not be so persnickety about doing it, and maybe kind of leaning a little bit more on the emotion rather than imitation.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So
make it your own. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's also I would imagine that after watching Star Wars 1,000 times, those voices are like solidly in your head.
Yeah.
And then like watching the new movies, it might be a little harder because it's just, the repetition of seeing it over and over again is just not quite there. And I do have to say, though, we listened to Rise of Skywalker, and I felt like you captured the energy or the essence of these characters and the energy of the actors in such an amazing way. Like, there's a lot of times where I'll say like, oh, this person reminds me of this person, and people will be like, they don't look anything alike. And I'm like, no, it's their energy. There's something about their aura and you captured that aura in your voice. And I really enjoyed that in Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, well, that makes me happy. I'm glad you, and you're right. Like, that was my main concern with getting to do the sequel novelizations, was like, I didn't have 10 years of watching that film over and over and over again to like, draw on, especially like Force Awakens. Like, I was like going to Toys R Us and finding like talking Captain Phasma toys to try to get a little more sample of what Gwendolyn Christie sounded like, in order to try to do, something close. And, and I only had the trailer, and I was like watching the trailer a bunch of times, like, trying to lock into it. And that was one of the times where Kevin was like, listen, we just have to like decide that, this will be our version of this event. And like, he'll come sometimes say that it's like, different people throughout the galaxy around the campfire retelling what happened. It's like, this is our campfire version. And like, it doesn't have to be the videotape version. It's just like, this is our recollection of how it went down.
You're C-3PO telling the Ewoks what Captain Phasma sounds like. I want to jump to this question because we're kind of talking about the intersection of your fandom with your work. And one of the great things I've noticed about your Instagram account is how big of a fan you are. Like, I feel absolutely comfortable saying you are a fan first, and I love your joy in it. I'm jealous of you. And I know that's every nerd's dream, is to have someone else jealous of them, and I'm jealous of you. So, but as a Star Wars fan yourself, are there any moments in the Star Wars novels that gave you chills, or you felt particularly powerful to narrate, or just surprised you?
Oh yeah, I mean, there are many. I did a book called Dark Disciple, and it was basically this story of like Asajj Ventress and this other Jedi, Quinlan Vos, and they have to work together, and there's some pretty intense things that happen between them that I feel like that's maybe like the first time that I got a little like weepy in the boot, like not uncontrollably crying, but like I got like emotional doing it. There was a scene, my mom has since passed away, and when we were doing the Last Jedi novelization, one of the last times I got to see my mom, I like kissed her on the forehead, and it was the same way that Luke did that to Leia. So that was kind of like emotional and like stirring up some stuff for there's like some, and early on when I did like the Fate of the Jedi books, there were these characters that Luke was trying to learn more about the Force from, and they were kind of like maybe the Bendu from Rebels, where they were people that or they were these aliens that interacted with the Force, not so much in a strict light and dark thing, but like almost like an in-between thing, and kind of found the balance. And just some of those explorations of, because for me, the Force is a metaphor for kind of spirituality and the unknown, and I guess personally for my own faith, I see a lot of parallels between what I believe about, spirituality and what they talk about in those stories. So those books, and then a lot of what has been happening in the High Republic novels, and just the ways that they talk about the Force, the ways that they understand how the Force works, and what our role is in trying to bring balance to the Force. I felt a lot of personal connections to that stuff, and it's kind of helped me in my own faith to try to wrestle with some of the difficult questions of, the unknown or spirituality or right and wrong, and kind of the tension of how you interpret things, and how there's a lot of things going on in the books that deal with some of that really deep stuff, and it's kind of helped me personally. So it's really fun.
What a privilege to be able to spend time in your career, so much time of your career, diving into that. Because I think a lot of us would relate and do relate to, yes, it's an epic, and it's fun, and it's adventure, and there's great characters, and everyone's got their favorite alien, and everyone's got their favorite, whatever. And there's lightsabers, and those are cool. But like, and we've kind of been circling this. We learned so much about ourselves and the people around us, and the mythology of like life, and we've said a ton of times on this podcast, George is just like one of the best anthropologists ever, and I don't know, I don't really have a question. I just think I think it's so fabulous that you get to spend so much of your professional time engrossed in that.
I know
that's so cool. Yeah.
Incredibly lucky and unworthy, because it's like such a honor, and I do other audiobooks, but like I would not have gotten into audiobooks if it weren't for Star Wars, because Star Wars was the main pull there. And so just anytime I get to do a Star Wars one, I feel like a little bit of like the work and play is intermixing, and it's like, is this job? And Kevin will sometimes joke with me like, are you paying me for this, or am I paying you for this?
Yeah, right. Well, with that thinking, I think Dave, we're both thinking of like the same thing.
Yeah, I think so.
How has this work kind of like in your understanding of the Star Wars saga, like evolved over the years? Like, how has it influenced your fandom or your appreciation of the franchise, both in kind of the more deeper sense that we've been talking about, but even maybe some of the just, what if you caught on that you're like, oh my God, that's so rad, like, and it's so fun, and I never caught that before.
Oh yeah, again, like a lot of things. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Well, okay, there's a couple things that are coming to mind, like the I guess a little like I know like for some people the sequel trilogy was maybe not their favorite, or there's some things they didn't like. But I have to say, and I've kind of felt this about all of the books that I've gotten to do, is that the difference between a film or a TV show or a book is that the book has an unfair advantage because it has so much time to really get into all the details you want more information about. And like, and I love that how the novelizations would take like a throwaway line and then really go down the rabbit hole and like really, and like, a lot of those films, like they fill in those gaps in like cartoons or comics or other programs later on. And like the book, for me, the originals will always be my favorite, but I really loved the sequel trilogy because of the books. Because, the books, like, the joke is like somehow Palpatine survived, but like the books like had been laying that groundwork ever since the Aftermath series. And then they really go into it in the novelizations, and like, there's so much there that makes you, or even like, some people don't like how could Rey, have this much knowledge of the Force, but there's a great scene in the book that talks about when Kylo's interrogating her, that it almost like opened up this two-way door.
Oh, yeah.
He was reading into her, but she was able to read into him, and almost like the floodgates of like a lot of his, so like there's so many things like that that make you appreciate the other media more because they just being in their, hearing what they're thinking when they're saying that line, Anyway, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
We just did, I can't remember which one, but we did one of the certain point of views, incorporated some of the stuff from the Obi-Wan series, story about Obi-Wan, and it was kind of replaying some of the stuff that happened between him and Anakin facing off, and it was kind of retconning that moment, but again, it was him helping you understand the heart behind all this stuff. It's really well done.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like with Rise of Skywalker, and I know I keep going back to Rise of Skywalker, but I think it's a really good kind of case study of what you're saying. And listening to it, I just remember like the first half hour is like the first 2 minutes of the movie plus.
Yeah.
It was just like the first 2 minutes of the movie go by is like, then you're here. But in the novelization, there was so much more there. And I just particularly remember a scene between Luke and Leia that I thought was really kind of elegant and added so much. And also with Leia's, the movie, let's face it, had faced a big obstacle with the passing of Carrie Fisher. Mm-hmm. And the book did not face that obstacle as much. And it really, I think it really made her story in that movie quite beautiful.
I agree.
What are the top 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
All right. Well, I know everybody's going to have different opinions about this, but what makes it Star Wars for me is like, I think something to do with the light side and dark side of the Force. Like, so for me, I really need Jedi in the story. Like I know there's other practitioners of the Force other than the Jedi. And part of why I like Rogue One is that you had Chirrut in there and, the Guardians of the Whills. So like that gave me my Force fix, but I need something with the Force for it to feel like Star Wars for me. I think the battle for good and evil and, like a group of ragtag people trying to do the right thing, and fight up against incredible odds, I think is amazing. And then, the more surfacey stuff is I was going to say lightsabers and space battles, so maybe I'll cheat and do 4 things. But and I like kind of the banter of Star Wars and, like Han and Leia go at it with each other or, I feel like humor is a big part of it. So like that being said, I ended up loving Andor, but Andor was a much slower burn for me because it took me a while for it to feel like Star Wars because it didn't have a lot of those elements, right? Or as featured as maybe I wanted them to.
Yeah.
Once we got to prison, I was all in, and then great. But it did take me a while to warm up to it because I like those things.
Mm-hmm. Totally, I totally agree with you. It took me a beat to warm up with it too, but once you are deep within that story, it holds you.
100%. Yeah,
for sure.
What is your favorite Star Wars memory?
Oh, again, so many. Well, I don't know. I have too many. I definitely think being in the theater when I was a little kid watching Empire was huge. I think I've had a lot recently because of getting to do the audiobooks. I got to go to Star Wars Celebration when they did, I think it was Jedi trailer, but on the floor, and that was like a huge memory. I got to meet Lars Mikkelsen and Tim Zahn this summer, so that was pretty great. So yes, I had a lot of really cool memories.
I mean, it seems like you're making new memories every day working with Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's got to be impressive.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, what are you excited that's announced right now? Like, what are you most looking forward to?
The most thing I'm excited about, that was really bad English, is I really want to see Ahsoka season 2. Like I'm very, very excited about that. So that's probably, and then, I they've announced the Rey movie and I really am excited about it, but I keep getting nervous because it keeps getting pushed back. So D. Ridley was saying that they're really making sure the script is ready. So if that's the reason, then that's great. But I just, it's, but that one will be really exciting because I am to the point now where okay, it's been a little too long since we've had a Star Wars.
Yes.
Yes.
I loved Skeleton Crew. I loved, Ahsoka, I loved the Acolyte, but I want to see something in the theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
The group of people, and so like and again, that movie is probably going to be right up my alley because it's the Jedi and the Reaper.
Yes.
And so I think that one's going to be really, really amazing. But Ahsoka season 2 will probably tide me over just because I love all those characters. And yeah. Oh, Mando and Grogu. Sorry, that's going to come out in parade. So that one will be the one I'm very excited about. And I love Mando as well. I have a Mythosaur on that.
I love it.
Between Yoda and Mando, you've got that whole show tatted on you.
Oh, yeah. My son agreed to do this one with me. So Mando was amazing because Mando, like, they were able to break new ground while still feeling nostalgic,
Yes.
able to kind of, that show is awesome. I love that show. And it totally caught me off guard because I thought it would be, real dark and brooding, like we're the best, but it was like, it had the heart and then they gave me a Jedi in there, or not a Jedi, but like a, Force user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I love The Mandalorian. So I'm very, very excited about that. I guess it hasn't been on my radar.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to keep these things on your radar when, like, for me, a lot of times it's not until I see the trailer then I'm like excited.
Yeah.
So this is our final question for you. Do you want to hear my Darth Vader impression?
Yes.
No.
Okay. No, I'm doing this. How often do you get to do this?
I love it.
Okay, hold on. I'm smiling too much. Hold on. Sister, so you have a twin sister. Obi-Wan was wise to hide her from me. Now his failure is complete. If you do not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will.
Oh, that was great. Well done.
I just like doing that. But seriously, our final question for you. We talked about your Star Wars journey so much. I feel like maybe we only caught the surface of it, but your love of Yoda, seeing Empire Strikes Back in the theater as a child, playing action figures at your grandmother's house, and then doing the voices that drive you into acting, which then gives you the opportunity to do the narration of the Star Wars books. And all through it, your fandom and your joy coming through, your telling of this story is just so heartwarming to see. All the way to the point where you finally, after, it was the 25th anniversary, you finally got to read Heir to the Empire. But also perform it in such a way that I feel like you mentioned, you said earlier you were unworthy, but I don't know if you were worthy or not, but I do know you earned it. And I think that's incredible. But all of this said, all of this discussed, what does Star Wars mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big question. Like to me, it is an allegory or a metaphor. For me personally, it's an allegory and metaphor for God. Like I feel like Force is in my mind, it's God. And so it was something that as a little kid, maybe planted some seeds in me. And then as I've gotten older, it's something that helps me understand some of the really difficult things in life. Helps me to understand the things that are difficult to understand because of that lens, and that metaphor helps me, process some of those hard to explain concepts and it's also maybe like a blueprint in a way. Like I know Jedi are not real, but it's like maybe like something I can look at as like, I'd like to be like that. It's like something like, and it's I don't know. It might be a I wear Star Wars clothing every day. I get to work on Star Wars. I do it for fun. Like I'm a part of the Saber Guild and the Rebel Legion clubs. So I'll sometimes on weekends dress up and we go to libraries and conventions and interact with kids and teach people, lightsaber choreography and do lightsaber shows. And so I do it for fun. I do it for work. It's probably maybe a little too important to me. It means on many different levels. It's led to friendships. Like there's people that I have a deep bond with because of our mutual love for this thing. So I maybe wouldn't have those friendships without this. So it means, more than I could encapsulate in a sentence or a word. It means so many things and so much.
Yeah. I love that.
Absolutely. And it really comes through. Like it comes I can see, I keep using this word joy, but that's the energy I get from you is joy. And it's so wonderful to witness and be around. What a great answer. Thank you, Mark.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun.
Mark, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
I'm on lots of places. I'm on Instagram. I have a complicated name. It's like Captain Ehud _VO _ Marc Thompson or something.
We can put it in the show notes.
I think on X, I'm Captain Ehud. On Facebook, I'm my name, Mark with a C. On Blue Sky, I can't remember what my username is on there, but
no one can remember their Blue Sky username.
I don't even have one.
Yeah.
I feel like the username is so complicated.
No, and I'm too lazy to get verified and just have one username for all of them. So I don't want to start over it.
Yeah. Well, like Elora said, we'll put all those links in the show notes so people can just pop into the show notes and click directly into them.
This is great. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. It was so much fun. It really, really was a pleasure.
You talk about feeling like unworthy, or you kind of mentioned that, and like how lucky you are to do this. I feel that in just like our small corner of the podcast realm, getting to talk to so many awesome creatives in the Star Wars industry. It's such a joy and a privilege for us. And so thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time, truly. Yeah.
Great. I really enjoyed this. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. And may the Force be with you.
Also.
Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners, and that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.